Three. Well, hi, everybody. Welcome to GW Center for Integrative Medicine Zoom podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Kogan, Medical Director, Associate Professor of Medicine at George Washington University. I have a very special guest today. Stephanie Cowell is my patient, and she's been a patient in our long COVID program. She's been struggling with long COVID for quite some time, recently getting a lot better. She'll tell us more about her story. But her struggle had led her to form a company. It's an artificial intelligence company that will help the patients with long COVID to figure out quickly, without going to a doctor, a lot of certain things. So I'm personally very excited. I've been helping this company by what I can, but a little time that I can give. And without any further ado, Stephanie, tell us your journey. Tell us about the company, and I'm sure listeners really want to hear this.
Yes, so I'm very grateful to Dr. Kogan first and foremost. And my initial infection with COVID-19 was in late January of 2020. I was living in Los Angeles at the time, and then as a result of lockdown and then starting to feel subsequent lingering symptoms, I ended up moving to Florida to live with my mom and dad, who are retired here. And then as my lingering symptoms started progressing and becoming more severe, I found myself in an unusual situation where I noticed the doctors around me weren't able to really give me any information. I fortunately came across Dr. Hannah Axelrod from a YouTube video that she did in, I want to say, January of 2021, pretty early on. The piece was titled "The COVID Patients Who Aren't Getting Better." And I saw that, immediately identified with the work that she was doing, and I called GW. And my relationship then with Dr. Axelrod led me to Dr. Kogan. And I myself am a nutritionist by background, and so for a majority of the time prior to getting to Dr. Axelrod and Dr. Kogan, I found myself relying on my own education and then the internet. But I'd have to kind of glean through what was real, what maybe was related to the symptoms I was experiencing. So that all over years of time led me to want to help others. And of course, artificial intelligence came to a point in more recent months where it is extremely helpful for this sort of technology purposes, expediting and gleaning through large sets of data. So my struggles really birthed the creation of this company. And as a way for someone who is living with long COVID, perhaps they're in an area where they don't have access to an integrative doctor, or even a doctor that understands long COVID fundamentally, they can engage with this app platform 24 hours, 7 days a week. They can type in a symptom, and then we provide them with, first off, background information on what long COVID is as a pathology, and then 3 different remedies that they can use in real time to manage their symptoms, that are all low cost and safe to use, that are, not requiring a doctor appointment. So I found that one of the most empowering things about my journey with GWCIM in particular was that I became super knowledgeable about my body and understanding cues and how to take care of symptoms as they were happening.
Mm-hmm.
So that has been immensely helpful, and I hope to give other people that gift. It's learning about your body in a way that lets you help yourself. Of course, this does not replace a doctor and the importance of seeing a doctor when the symptoms are to a severe level. However, this provides you with, science-backed knowledge that lets you learn about your body first and foremost, and then secondly, do something about it. And then that in turn can help your doctor tailor treatment to something that's more effective.
So, before we drop into actually you talking about the company and you talking about showing us the app, and we'll run through some of the questions with the app. So your journey, basically, you quickly realize the big problem overall, the fact that nobody knows anything and everybody's looking for some answers. Nobody can get any good answers because there is no knowledge. In essence, the body of knowledge is small. When you went into this mode of now what, how this whole idea of company came to be, like, and who were the other people who were helping you in the first steps before you even put stuff together?
I think that was all just me, honestly. I remember, and Dr. Axelrod could have testified to this, and the first time I met with her in telehealth, I said that my experience wanted me to make sure that other people didn't have to go through this.
Uh-huh.
So,
you know how often we hear this? We hear this with so many people who say, I hope that no one has to go through what I went through. And so we've seen this. It's a little better now because I think people who are getting long COVID in the last 6 months, it's a little milder, and I think there are a lot less. There's just more knowledge now, and we know more. We can do more. But back when you gotten into this mess, we had no idea. Hannah was one of the first people. In fact, she taught me most of the workup. And when we had the clinic, I actually, at GW, before it shut down, we were part of it. So I was part of it in the early phases. We were all kind of learning together. And then when the money ran out, the formal clinic got shut down. But of course, Dr. Axelrod's still seeing patients once a week at GW, and then a lot of other providers who have learned over time. They're seeing patients in their own practice, but the formal component disappeared, which also speaks to what you're trying to do. I mean, there's a good example. Major university first poured money into it and then realized it's unsustainable because the model for that is not there. And so I gotten so interested in your process, realizing, wait a second, the government is not interested in this topic. It's very clear. We've seen strong resistance to even the concept. I have no doubt that in the next couple of years, they're going to put this all on the back burner and say that doesn't even exist. Just like what happened with the mono, with chronic Lyme, with all this infection. Government's going to just say it doesn't exist. They're going to close their eyes and it's going to be all like in the background. And so we are in the trenches going to be dealing with all of this day after day without any way forward on the federal level. I have no doubt. It's funny because we're right now putting a grant for low income population who have long COVID. There's a health services grant that they put out. It's $9 million for up to 9 grants. Like, okay, 9 grants for the entire country. So so you're basically doing it all from scratch. Now you have a team. I met your team. It's a bunch of wonderful people. What do you think the next steps? Once you kind of get funding, which is I know you're trying to, what do you think of doing in terms of like what's the process going to look like?
I hope to, at the very least, get this into the hands of people who are living with long COVID, that might be living in an area, say in the middle of the United States. They may not have access to an integrative doctor, or people who are living in a state that, like myself in many ways, not to become political in this conversation. However, where I am located right now, Florida had a very particular view of COVID from a political sense. I hope that this app at least can reach some people who are in states that had a particular political view of this, because for a bit of time I was trying to work as just a nutritionist, counseling people and I noticed here locally that I was seeing people who identified with all of the symptoms of long COVID. However, they had no idea or understanding that it could be related to their infection. So my goal is at least to educate people, give them something where they can take care of themselves. The people that are in their life, maybe their friends, their family, also because of political things, they may not want to listen, although the person is actually experiencing physical symptoms and not feeling well. And then it becomes, a vicious cycle attributing to a decline in mental health, of course. So at least this gives them something that links them to a reputable source like Scientific American, where they can read about this and realize this is not psychosomatic. This is something that is real and other people have it. And then here are ways to, manage what you're dealing with right now, and then also potentially give them a resource like GWCIM, where they can seek help, even in the support group form, where at least they can connect to other people who are living with long COVID. They can get information from someone like Dr. Kogan and feel supported. And of course, all of that is a major influence in someone getting better from a chronic illness.
Yeah, I think the trusted sources of information is still, for long COVID, is a hard thing to come by. There's just a lot of secondary gain sites out there, a lot of information. I've scrolled through some things on Facebook. I was just like, oh my God. So there's a lot of really crappy information, and so I just want to highlight the fact that your system really picking the most up to date, the most evidenced things you can find out there.
It's interesting as a I guess someone who was called the ancestral variant.
Mhm.
I understood, and this is just
Let me just hold you for a sec. So I'm not sure I already understood what you said. So ancestral variant means that you've had the original COVID, and so you got long COVID from the original strain, which we know for fact now is seemingly the most significant or most severe cases. The Omicron, which is the current strain, long COVID Omicron, is a lot milder for most parts. It's not universally true, but it's generally correct. So you people who develop long COVID from the first strain struggled the most. That's what we've been observing. And I think in our program, over half of all the patients with long COVID have the original strain, which speaks to the severity for years now, not like for 6 months.
Mhm.
Sorry, I had to just explain.
No, that's okay. In fact, some of my work building out WellnessXYZ, I've encountered other people who had the ancestral variant, and they are, depending on their socioeconomic status, there are different levels of getting better. So I know that that variant was really rough on
Right,
people.
right. Well, good. Well, let's get practical, shall we?
Yes.
So you were going to show us a little bit about the app. Of course, we're going to put the links to the app in the YouTube video and everywhere we'll send it to. And of course, listeners will be able to check it out for themselves momentarily. But we thought it would be really valuable just to show everybody what it looks like. And we're going to talk about migraine, right? We're going to talk about headaches and how the system operates that. So go ahead and share your screen and we'll jump right in. That's the interesting part.
So let's see. Bear with me 1 second. Share screen.
All right. So I can see that over there. All right. So it's just the wellness with 2S xyz.com.
Correct.
I like it's very simple and easy to remember.
So someone could go in here, say, I have a migraine. which is one of the most debilitating symptoms of long COVID.
Yeah, so that's actually why we did sort of we talked a little bit ahead of time, and we picked migraine or headache because it's a very big deal. A lot of people with headache tend to struggle severely after COVID. Interestingly, it's seemingly clustered around particular variants. We actually seen a lot of headaches post Omicron, so that's another reason why I thought of picking it, because I think it's more real time right now for a lot of people.
So this here, it does give just a brief overview of the symptom. Here, the AI is pointing out that it might be related to your diet, which in my case, I've modified my diet a lot, and that gave me substantial relief from migraines. So this could be beneficial to someone who hasn't even maybe put those things together. They could see, oh, okay, maybe there is a food that I'm eating that is contributing to the migraine. So it's providing people first and foremost with just a scientific and educational background. And things like exercise, these are all obviously things that they can do for free at home to take care of themselves safely. And then it does link out to a resource here, Andrew Weil, the anti-migraine diet. And so if someone is interested in learning more, they can, read through this entire article, and then take that from there. So at least it's giving them a curated view of
highly evidenced, very trusted source, very long-term been used, lots of successes. So, and you see how quickly, just point out how quickly this pulled everything together. So now we're looking at acupuncture, right?
Yeah, this is acupuncture here. This again is an Andrew Weil resource, so we could click on that, and then someone could be like, oh, I haven't heard about acupuncture before. I'd like to learn more. How could this help me? And then it gives them, it refers to a research study and gives them evidence-based support for using that modality.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
So for now, completely free for patients, right?
Yes, this is free. We're operating as a free website right now. It's WellnessXYZ.com. Anyone that is experiencing long COVID, I'd also be very happy to hear their feedback. So if there's a way to put a contact for me on the video as well, that helps to make the entire experience better.
And of course, your long-term goal is to continue grow resources library and to make the system much more intuitive and deeper, so that it can pick new answers on particular patient's questions. Of course, you already said that it doesn't substitute for clinical care, but nonetheless, it could be a very quick and very valuable resource for someone, especially if they're one of the value, in my opinion, is simple. It often takes long time for people to get what you just showed in like 30 seconds. You had all these things lined up for a patient. For somebody to just Google things around and figure out, okay, this is not okay, they'll spend hours doing that. And we just showed a very simple, very brief example. And as your system gets more sophisticated and more intuitive, I think it's also going to not just expand the library, that's self-explanatory, but really just also figure out the priorities, how information is given back to the patient. So yeah, I think a wonderful future and already a current resource. I think you and I talked a little bit about how you're going to try to make it, how you try to monetize it in the future, that you will not charge patients, but you will figure out how to incorporate this in the medical work with offices. In fact, WellnessXYZ and CIM, GWCM is going to try to figure out how to enhance some of the online presence interactivity. So let's say a patient come to our website and they're interested in a particular complaint. So they'll be able to put that complaint into your system, and something will pop up there that will give them a little more information to learn. And so then this tool can be used by any practice out there, especially I would say by practice that don't have integrative medicine resources. Because your main accent for now, right, is kind of a whole person integrative model of care, not just, well, here's a drug for migraine. I think that is, that's easier to do with just your regular doctor. Anybody can call their primary care and say, well, I have a migraine, what can you prescribe to me? But this is kind of beyond that. This is much more, what else can I do for my own problem, as you said. So,
and a lot of that comes just from my own experience. As much as long COVID was a lot of suffering, I did learn a lot about my body. It's interesting, as a child, I really hated going to Western doctors, and at times felt like something was wrong in me. I'm very tired, and through this whole long COVID journey, we've discovered that I have some methylation genes that could impact like chronic fatigue-like symptoms and also impact long COVID. So I've found that this has been, at its most, I want to help introduce other people to integrative medicine and show them that there's another type of care out there and it might be the right fit for you.
I love how you, in the beginning, when we started talking, I love how you pointed that a lot of the times people just not aware of their own physiology, or they're not aware of their own body talking to them in a certain way. And I think when you're engaging in anything that flushes that out and that teaches you to be more aware of yourself, teaches you to look beyond what pill can I take to lessen my symptom to, well, why do I have this symptom in the first place? What's inside of me is off balance that needs to be addressed. And, I think any tool out there that helps patients to think that way and points them toward direction of self-learning, I think is critically valuable. Unfortunately, current healthcare system model is just really not encouraging that. It's actually discouraging that, because we have pill for every ill, which suppresses the symptom. And then you have no interest in trying to say, wait a second, what else can I do if the symptom is gone? So with that, let's wrap up. But I have a final question for you. How are you using this for yourself?
It's interesting because while I was recently well enough to start traveling and I went to San Francisco, I went back to kind of my home state for the first time in 3 years. While I was there, I experienced kind of like a panic attack, I think, related to some long COVID things. And I actually put into the app, I said, I need to test my product to know that this is actually working. So I put in, I have a panic attack, and I didn't like the responses that it gave back. So now it has been hard coded to give back a very particular video from Thich Nhat Hanh. So I actually do, as much as I do feel better, sometimes I will test it because I want it to feel as close to someone who's like a medically knowledgeable best friend and with high empathy, that it's there. So I'm constantly working on that, and I hope that becomes something that's a highlight of the product moving forward.
Yeah, so I hope your product has a bright future. I think the way you think about it and the way you created it, the simplicity, the free nature of access, no planning for it, will stay free for patients. I love all that. We're wishing you all the best. And I think what we should do, we should bring you back in a year and we'll see where the program is, right? I
Yeah.
mean, I think that would be very exciting. Well, thank you, Stephanie, so much. Again, this is GWCM Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Kogan. We'll see you back covering all the things integrated medicine out there. We'll continue coverage of long COVID, acute COVID, and all other things that are important. So stay safe, stay well. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.
Thank you.